Cowboys Nation, what's up? There's something in the air around Dallas, and it's got every fan talking. The trade deadline is creeping closer, and it feels like the front office might be plotting something big on that defensive line. Now, we're not talking about some quiet, under-the-radar move for a backup player who'll barely see the field. No, this feels different. The talk around the league is that the Cowboys could be gearing up for a real addition, the kind of move that turns heads and makes other teams nervous. It's one of those times where every insider, every beat reporter, and every fan on social media is throwing out names and scenarios, and honestly, it's hard not to get caught up in the hype. Here's what's really stirring things up. An insider known for dropping these little breadcrumbs hinted that both the Cowboys and the Niners could be in the market for a defensive lineman before Tuesday's deadline. Forget the Niners. What matters is that the Cowboys' name keeps coming up. And when that happens, it's usually not without reason. Dallas knows its defensive front has been solid, but not quite dominant this year. And if this team truly wants to compete deep into January, some reinforcements could make all the difference. Of course, people immediately started throwing out the big names. The internet loves a blockbuster, right? Everyone wants to imagine Jerry Jones sending picks flying out the window for some superstar. But let's get one thing straight right now. Max Crosby isn't walking through that door. Every credible source out there has shut that down. The Raiders aren't moving him, and honestly, who could blame them? The man's their cornerstone, unless Crosby wakes up tomorrow and demands a trade. And let's be real, that's not happening. You can cross him off the list completely. So who does that leave? Let's talk about a few possibilities that actually make some sense. First, there's Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. Now, I'll be honest, this one feels like a long shot, but it's worth mentioning. Dallas reportedly made some calls, at least to check in, but Cincinnati's response was pretty clear. They're not ready to part ways. The Bengals still believe they can make a run, and even if they stumble, Hendrickson is the kind of player you keep unless you're tearing everything down. Still, every team has its price. If the losses keep piling up for the Bengals, maybe that conversation changes, but right now, it's looking like wishful thinking more than reality. Then there's Jeffrey Simmons from Tennessee. This one is interesting because the Titans have basically said they'll listen on almost anyone not named Simmons or Skoronski. That means, yeah, they're open for business, but not with their elite guys. And Simmons, man, he's the definition of elite. If you could somehow land him, that Cowboys defense would instantly jump to another level. But again, price matters. You're talking about a first-round pick and more, and Dallas hasn't been eager to throw around their ones lately. Jerry and Steven love their draft capital, and unless they see a move that transforms the roster overnight, they're not emptying the tank. Another dream name fans keep bringing up is Quinnen Williams from the Jets. Every year around this time, rumors start swirling that the Jets might listen to offers. And technically, yeah, they're listening, but there's a huge difference between listening and actually trading. According to multiple reports, the Jets aren't entertaining anything unless someone completely blows them away with a massive offer, like first-rounder plus type of deal. That's steep, and again, the Cowboys just aren't that desperate. They already reached out once in the past, trying to see what it would take, and the answer was basically a king's ransom. So unless the Jets have a sudden change of heart, it's safe to assume Quinnen stays put. Now, a more intriguing possibility might be someone like Kayvon Thibodeaux. The Giants have to be thinking about the future, and even though Thibodeaux hasn't quite hit that superstar stride yet, he's shown flashes. He's under team control for a few more years, which always makes a player more valuable, but that also drives up the asking price. If the Cowboys could somehow get him for a second-round pick, that's a conversation worth having. But again, do you see the Giants handing him over to a division rival? Probably not. It's one of those moves that sounds great on paper, but feels impossible once you start looking at the politics of it. All right, let's pull this back to reality a bit. There are some more attainable names that actually fit the Cowboys situation better. One of them could be Jermaine Johnson from the Jets. He's still young, has shown flashes as both a pass rusher and run defender, and might just need a new environment to reach his full potential. The word is that the Jets told him they're not moving him, but things can change fast in this league. Will McDonald is another name from that same defensive line who's worth keeping an eye on. He's raw, still developing, but he's got those traits you love: length, burst, and pure speed off the edge. Those are the kind of guys Dan Quinn loves to mold. Then we shift our attention to Miami, because something's brewing down there too. The Dolphins have a logjam at edge rusher, and it feels like one of their guys could be on the move. Jaylin Phillips stands out immediately. He's on expiring contract, and when he's healthy, he's a monster. The production might not show it this season because of injuries, but his pressure rate has been elite. If Dallas could land him for a mid-round pick, that's a move that makes sense. You get a talented player who can help right away without sacrificing the future. Bradley Chubb is another option, though his contract situation makes things trickier. He's under team control, but that deal isn't cheap, and Dallas is already navigating a tight cap with extensions for Micah Parsons and CD Lamb on the horizon. If we're talking about pure fit, though, someone like Carl Granderson could sneak into the picture. He started the season hot for the Saints, but cooled off as the year went on. He's not an elite player, but he's productive, and he could bring valuable depth to the rotation. Sometimes those are the moves that make the biggest difference when the playoffs hit. Not the blockbuster trades, but the smart, targeted ones. And here's where things get really interesting. The Cowboys don't necessarily have to go after an edge. They could just as easily look inside for a defensive tackle. They've got Perion Winfrey designated to return from injured reserve, but that's not a guaranteed fix. Shelby Harris from Cleveland is one of those sneaky names that might make sense. He's a veteran, tough in the trenches, and wouldn't cost much in terms of draft capital. That's the kind of acquisition that keeps your rotation fresh and your run defense solid when the games get ugly in December. Of course, when you start thinking about these scenarios, you realize how delicate the balance is. The Cowboys front office loves value. They're not impulsive traders. They'll take calls, sure, but they're always calculating what it means for the long term. Fans might want fireworks, but this organization tends to play the long game. That said, there's a sense that if the right opportunity pops up, if the right player becomes available at the right price, they won't hesitate. It's easy to forget how much pressure comes with the star on that helmet. Every move, every rumor, every whisper turns into a headline. The Cowboys are held to a different standard. They can't just be good, they have to be great. And if they truly believe this defense can carry them to a Super Bowl, adding one more weapon to that front could be the difference between another playoff exit and finally breaking through. The trade clock is ticking, the rumors are flying, and the anticipation is building. Dallas has already shown interest in exploring options, and while fans are dreaming about the splashy names, the truth might be somewhere in between. Not a blockbuster, not a bargain bin grab, but a smart, calculated move that strengthens the defense without mortgaging the future. The question now is simple. Are the Cowboys really ready to pull the trigger this time? Because if they are, the rest of the NFC better pay attention. All right, Cowboys Nation, let's keep this rolling because the conversation around Dallas and the defensive line isn't slowing down anytime soon. While the dream names like Hendrickson or Quinnen Williams get all the headlines, the reality is the Cowboys are most likely eyeing moves that balance talent, cost, and team control. This is a front office that has shown time, and again, they're smart, patient, and strategic. They're not going to give away a first-round pick unless the player is going to change the trajectory of the team immediately. So, we need to look at the players who are available, realistic, and fit the Cowboys scheme. And there are plenty of options if you dig a little deeper. Let's talk about the Jets first because that market has been buzzing. Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald for both make sense, though in different ways. Johnson has that mix of pass-rushing ability and run-stopping potential, and he's still young enough that Dallas can shape him into exactly what they need. McDonald, on the other hand, is more of a pure edge rusher, and his upside is intriguing, but he's inconsistent. Injuries have set him back, but if he can stay healthy, he's a player who could produce immediately off the edge. Both of these guys give the Cowboys options, and that's exactly what Dan Quinn thrives on: rotation depth, versatile athletes, and high motor players who can be schemed into the perfect spot. Then there's Miami, which has been quietly building a surplus of pass rushers. Jaylin Phillips is intriguing because he's on an expiring contract, which makes him a trade candidate without complicating long-term planning. He's got the length, burst, and production potential that make him a real difference maker when healthy. His pressure rates are impressive, And even if he's not putting up double-digit sacks, his ability to collapse the pocket and disrupt the quarterback is exactly what Dallas needs. Bradley Chubb, meanwhile, is a more expensive option. He's under team control, but the contract isn't light, and that's where the Cowboys' calculations get tricky. You want talent, yes, but you don't want to sabotage the cap. It's a delicate balance. Now, let's pivot to some of the less glamorous but equally valuable options. Someone like Carl Granderson has cooled off a bit after a strong start to the season, but he's still a solid rotational piece. Sometimes those depth players are the difference between surviving the regular season and making a real playoff run. Depth on the defensive line is critical, especially for a team like Dallas that's chasing a Super Bowl. The Cowboys can't rely on a single superstar to carry the unit. They need contributors who can come in, play their role, and elevate the group as a whole. Looking inside, the defensive tackle situation is interesting. Perion Winfrey coming off injured reserve is good news, but he's not a game changer. Someone like Shelby Harris could be a quiet addition that shored up the interior line without breaking the bank. Veteran presence in the trenches is invaluable, especially for run defense, and Harris fits that mold. He doesn't make headlines, but the Cowboys' front office knows that games are won in the trenches. A low-cost, high-impact rotation piece could be exactly what they're looking for if the right opportunity presents itself. Then there's the larger strategy to consider. Dallas isn't just looking to fill a position. They're trying to craft a defense that can win in January. They're looking for players who fit the scheme, can stay healthy, and are versatile enough to create mismatches against multiple offenses. Edge rushers who can also play the run, tackles who can anchor the interior, and depth pieces who can step in without losing a beat. That's the blueprint. And it's one that has served them well in the past. The Cowboys' history with the draft and trades shows they're cautious but opportunistic. They know the value of first-round picks, and they protect them unless a deal is too good to pass up. That means the blockbuster rumors are just that, rumors. The real work is in finding players who are under team control, cost-effective, and scheme-ready. These are the kinds of moves that might not make headlines immediately, but end up being the key to sustained success. Another angle to consider is injuries across the league. Teams like Tennessee, the Jets, and Miami have injuries that force them to consider moving players they might otherwise keep. That's where Dallas can capitalize. They're in a position to swoop in, fill gaps, and acquire players who have proven talent but might be underutilized or stuck behind depth charts on other teams. It's a strategy that requires patience, timing, and the willingness to pounce when the market shifts. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. And what could become one of the most talked about moves of the season, whispers are circulating that the Dallas Cowboys are preparing a surprise trade for Miami Dolphins running back JAYLIN WRIGHT. Sources close to both organizations suggest that discussions have already begun, and while nothing is official, the mere possibility of Wright heading to Texas has ignited a frenzy among fans and analysts alike. The Cowboys, known for their aggressive approach in recent seasons, appear determined to bolster their backfield, which has been criticized for inconsistency and injuries. Wright, a dynamic and versatile runner, fits the profile of a player who could immediately impact Dallas' offensive scheme. With his speed, agility, and ability to catch out of the backfield, he would offer quarterback Dak Prescott another weapon in the passing game, while easing some of the burden on the team's aging offensive line. On the other side, the Dolphins could view this as an opportunity to acquire draft capital or fill other roster gaps. Wright, while talented, has faced some challenges in Miami's crowded backfield, and a trade could provide him with a fresh start in a high-profile market. Rumors suggest that the Cowboys might be willing to offer a mid-round draft pick in exchange, a price that would surprise many given Wright's potential upside. League insiders are already speculating about the timing. Some believe the deal could happen before the trade deadline, giving Dallas a boost in their playoff push, while others think it might be a longer negotiation, with both teams weighing their options carefully. Social media is alight with fan reactions, ranging from excitement to skepticism, as the mere hint of Wright in a Cowboys uniform has sparked heated debates. While nothing is set in stone, The chatter around this potential trade underscores the unpredictability of the NFL offseason. If it happens, it could reshape both team strategies and become one of the most unexpected moves of the year. For now, all eyes remain on Dallas and Miami, as fans wait to see if this rumor will transform into reality. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.